What happens when the world number 3 walks off the court after a dominant victory and admits something felt completely off about her game? Coco Gauff just dismantled Alexandra Eala in the Dubai Championships quarterfinal, but her post-match confession has everyone talking. She won convincingly, crushed her opponent in straight sets, and yet something about the entire match felt, quote, weird to her. What exactly was going on in Coco's head during this clash, and why did playing less aggressive somehow work better? Stick around, because Coco's revelation about her game plan might just change everything you thought you knew about modern tennis strategy. Quick favor, if you are loving this tennis content, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It costs nothing, takes a second, and means the world to us here at Baseline Z. Already subscribed? Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, back to the main event. Picture this, the Dubai Tennis Championships, one of the most prestigious tournaments on the WTA calendar. The lights are blazing, the crowd is buzzing with anticipation, and Coco Gauff, America's tennis sensation, is stepping onto the court for a quarterfinal showdown against Alexandra Eala. The Filipino sensation had been making waves, turning heads with her aggressive style and fearless shot-making. Everyone expected fireworks. Everyone expected a battle. What they got was a masterclass, but not the kind anyone saw coming. Coco demolished Eala, absolutely demolished her. The scoreline told the story of complete dominance, the kind of performance that makes commentators run out of superlatives. But here's where it gets interesting. After the match, during her press conference, Coco dropped a bombshell that had tennis analysts scratching their heads and fans flooding social media with theories. She admitted she did not play her usual aggressive game, and somehow that made everything work even better. Wait, what? The girl who built her reputation on fearless power tennis just won by dialing it back? That's like saying you won a race by slowing down. It does not compute. Or does it? Let me paint you the full picture here. Alexandra Eala is not just some random player who stumbled into the quarterfinals. This is a rising star, a former junior number 1, someone with the kind of aggressive baseline game that can blow opponents off the court on her best days. She hits hard, she goes for lines, and she's not afraid to take the ball early and dictate play. Going into this match, everyone knew Eala would come out swinging. The scouting report on her reads like a highlight reel, crushing forehands, aggressive returns, a serve that can hurt you if you're not ready. This was supposed to be a test for Coco, a real examination of whether she could handle someone trying to take the racket out of her hands. But Coco had other plans. During that post-match press conference, sitting there with her trademark composure, she revealed something fascinating. Honestly, just trying not to let her dictate so much, which it was weird because I felt like I didn't play as aggressive today, but it ended up working. Boom, there it is, the confession that sent tennis Twitter into overdrive. Coco Gauff, one of the most aggressive players on tour, someone who thrives on taking control and imposing her game, just admitted she won by not being aggressive. The irony is delicious, but the strategy behind it, that's where things get really interesting. Think about it this way. Eala walks onto the court with one mission: attack, attack, attack. She wants to take time away from Coco. She wants to push her back behind the baseline. She wants to make her uncomfortable. That's Eala's game plan. That's how she wins matches. But what happens when your opponent refuses to engage in that kind of firefight? What happens when Coco decides, you know what, I'm not going to play your game today? It's like showing up to a street race and your opponent decides to drive the speed limit instead. Suddenly, all your preparation, all your aggression, all your game plan, it hits a wall because there's nothing to push against. Coco's approach was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to out-hit Eala, instead of getting into those baseline slugfests where anything can happen, she chose patience. She chose consistency. She chose to let Eala make the mistakes, and boy, did it work. Imagine Eala loading up for those big forehands, going for those aggressive shots, and every single time the ball keeps coming back. Not with interest, not with extra pace, just coming back. Deep, consistent, making her hit one more ball. That's psychological warfare, folks. That's tennis chess at its finest. The weird part that Coco mentioned,
That probably comes from the feeling of winning without that usual adrenaline rush of aggressive tennis. When you're crushing winners, painting lines, hitting aces, there's this visceral satisfaction, this feeling of imposing your will on the match. But winning through patience, through smart tactical adjustments, through making your opponent beat themselves, that feels different. It feels almost too easy, which is probably why it felt weird to Coco. She's so used to going toe-to-toe with opponents, trading haymakers, that this more tactical approach probably felt like she wasn't doing enough, even though the scoreboard kept telling her otherwise. But here's what makes this even more fascinating. Coco's ability to recognize this in real time, to adjust her game plan mid-match based on what was working, that's champion-level tennis intelligence right there. Lesser players would have stuck to their guns, would have tried to outpower Eala because that's what they do best. But Coco saw an opportunity, saw that Eala was trying to dictate, and made the calculated decision to take that weapon away by simply not engaging in that particular battle. It's like that saying, you can't lose an argument if you don't have it. Coco couldn't lose a baseline war if she refused to fight one. Now, let me break down what this actually looked like on the court, because the strategy here is next-level brilliant. Eala comes out firing, trying to take control of points early. Coco responds with deep, heavy balls that push Eala back behind the baseline. Eala tries to attack again, loading up for a big shot. Coco sends it back, not attacking, just neutralizing, forcing Eala to generate all the pace. After a few rallies like this, Eala starts to get frustrated. She starts going for a little too much, trying to create something out of nothing, because she's used to being the aggressor. And that's when the errors start piling up. Tennis fans on Twitter were having a field day with this. One user wrote, "Coco just gave us all a masterclass in how to win without trying to win, if that makes sense." Another quipped, "Eala showed up to a gunfight and Coco brought a defensive wall. Genius-level strategy." The memes were flowing faster than aces on grass court. One showed Coco sitting calmly, while Eala was portrayed as someone trying to fight a cloud. All aggression, no target. Classic internet gold. But let's dig deeper into why this approach was so effective. In modern tennis, especially women's tennis, power has become such a dominant factor that sometimes players forget about the tactical side of the game. Everyone wants to hit bigger, serve faster, crush more winners. But tennis at its core is still about making one more ball than your opponent. It's about problem solving, about figuring out what your opponent wants to do and taking that away from them. Coco understood the assignment perfectly. Eala wanted pace, wanted rhythm, wanted to be able to redirect power. Coco gave her none of those things. The beauty of Coco's game plan was that it wasn't passive. This was not her just pushing balls back and hoping for the best. This was active neutralization, aggressive defense, if you will. Every ball she sent back had a purpose, had depth, had placement. She wasn't just returning shots, she was controlling where Eala could hit from, limiting angles, making it harder and harder for Eala to find any offensive opportunities. It's like playing defense in basketball. You're not scoring, but you're absolutely dictating what the other team can do. And here's the kicker. This whole experience might have just unlocked a new dimension in Coco's game. Think about it. She's already one of the best defensive players on tour. Her speed and court coverage are legendary. She's already one of the best aggressive players, capable of blasting winners from anywhere on the court. But now she's shown she can win by deliberately choosing not to be aggressive when the situation calls for it. That's scary. That's the kind of versatility that separates good players from great ones and great players from champions. The tennis world took notice. Former players started weighing in on social media. One retired pro commented, "What Coco did against Eala shows maturity beyond her years. Knowing when not to flex your muscles is just as important as knowing when to go for it." Another analyst pointed out, "This is why Gauff is going to win multiple Grand Slams. She adapts, she learns, she executes." The respect was flowing from all corners of the tennis community. But let's not forget Alexandra Eala in all of this. The young Filipino star walked into this match with big dreams and a solid game plan. She wanted to make a statement, wanted to show she could hang with the elite players. And you know what? Her approach was not wrong. Being aggressive, trying to take control, that's exactly what she needed to do. The problem was she ran into a Coco Gauff who had done her homework, who had a counter strategy ready and executed it to perfection. Sometimes in tennis, you can do everything right and still lose because your opponent was just better that day. This was one of those days for Eala.
What makes this entire situation even more interesting is what it means for Coco going forward. She has already proven she can win big matches with her aggressive style. She has proven she can defend like a wall when needed. But now she has added this tactical flexibility to her arsenal, this ability to deliberately choose a less aggressive approach when it serves her better. Future opponents are going to have nightmares trying to prepare for her. How do you game plan against someone who can beat you by being aggressive, beat you by defending, or beat you by doing this weird hybrid thing where she controls without attacking? You cannot. That is the point. In the aftermath of this match, the tennis media went into overdrive. Headlines screamed about Coco's tactical brilliance. Podcasts dedicated entire segments to breaking down her strategy. YouTube tennis channels analyzed every point, showing how her game plan unfolded. And through it all, that one word kept coming up: weird. It felt weird to Coco because it was different, because it went against her natural instincts, because winning without the usual aggressive fireworks seemed almost too clinical, too calculated. But weird or not, it worked, and that is all that matters in professional tennis. So what can we learn from this Dubai quarterfinal? What can club players, aspiring pros, and tennis fans take away from Coco's revelation? First, tennis is not just about power, it is about strategy. Second, knowing your opponent's game plan and finding ways to neutralize it is just as valuable as having weapons of your own. Third, sometimes the best offense is a really smart defense. And fourth, champion-level players like Coco Gauff are willing to feel uncomfortable, to do things that feel weird if it gives them the best chance to win. As Coco moves forward in the Dubai Championships, you can bet opponents are watching this match footage, trying to figure out how to avoid the same trap Eala fell into. Do they try to be more patient themselves? Do they try to out-hit Coco before she can settle into that neutralizing rhythm? Do they try something completely different? That is the beauty of what Coco did here. She has created more questions than answers for everyone who has to face her next. The Dubai crowd witnessed something special that day, not just a dominant victory, but a masterclass in tactical flexibility. They saw a champion who is not content with just one way of winning, who is constantly evolving, constantly adding new tools to her already impressive arsenal. And if that confession about it feeling weird tells us anything, it tells us that Coco herself was surprised by how well it worked, which means she is probably filing this strategy away for future use, ready to deploy it whenever she encounters another aggressive opponent trying to take the match out of her hands. In the end, Coco Gauff did not just beat Alexandra Eala in that Dubai quarterfinal. She outsmarted her, outmaneuvered her, and showed the tennis world yet another way she can dominate. The confession about it feeling weird, that is just the cherry on top, a glimpse into the mind of a champion who is still learning, still growing, still figuring out new ways to win. And for everyone else on tour, that should be a terrifying thought, because if Coco is adding this kind of tactical sophistication to her already elite game, the sky is not the limit, there is no limit.